Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have to say that match between Gukesh and Ding is heating up. It's insane amount of pressure, and it's so much to speak about, but basically everything what I have in my mind right now is oh my god, literally oh my gosh, because yeah, if you missed what happened, feel free to to sit down, relax, and take your popcorn, because it's going to be very exciting. So today Gukesh played with white, and after yesterday's loss, he pretty much had to play for a win, otherwise he would be in huge trouble to lose his title. Yeah, so before we jump to the game, a real quick information about the Chessify platform, partners of this channel. Chessify offers you a wide range of powerful engines, access to different sort of databases, and many other useful materials to get you to the next level in your chess improvements. So feel free to check referral link in the description, and with the promo code MESHKOVS20 you can get a 20% off for the first purchase. So today, now we can have a look on the game. Ding one more time played c4 on move 1. It already happened on in game 8, where Gukesh replied with e5, and then they had this sort of not the main line, the side line with bishop b4, knight d5, bishop e7, knight f3, d6, and so on. So most likely Ding expected to see something like this, but after c4 happened, instead of e5, Gukesh plays e6, and yeah, after investing a bit of a time, a world champion plays g3, d5 happens on the board, bishop g2, and after knight f6, knight f3, Gukesh, it's so interesting how sometimes, you know, in chess these things are repeating from time to time, because Gukesh yesterday won a very nice game with white, and today he plays himself and he plays d4, the same approach that Ding used yesterday and he lost the game. And so he either tried to be very aggressive, or to show that he can navigate this type of position better than Ding. So world champion makes a short castle, and after knight c6 he plays e3, undermining the center, and sort of in ideal world for white, they see d takes e3, then white takes f takes e3, and then gets the center with a move d2 to d4. But this, of course, never happens in a real life, because black would like to keep their control over the center, and then white plays d3. So in this case you can't already play d4 with one move immediately, and this is the moment where black can capture on e3, and f takes e3 is not as good anymore, because black plays e5 and sort of fights for the center first. So that's why bishop e3 happened. Still, e5 is the very thematic reply to fight for this d4 square. White plays knight c3, black plays short castle, and yeah, at this point, of course, it's very critical in almost after each move to consider this d3, d4 move. But if you do so, then everything trades. Like, let's say here you play d4, takes, 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 and the question is how you're going to play for a win. Just it's 3-on-3 on the king side, the same 3-on-3 on the queen side, and it's very balanced game. So it's not something what you want to get in a match situation where a draw pretty much means the same as loss. So for this reason, Ding tries to postpone this d3, d4 as he is playing for a win, and he sort of makes still some improvements and wait for the better moment to strike in the center. That's why he plays rook e1, generally useful move because there is an e5 pawn which is pretty vulnerable, could be vulnerable in some moment, and Gukesh plays much faster with h6. So at this moment, in general, world champion spent way more time, as we already got used to it, but indeed he sensed the position way better and way deeper than all of us, all the spectators, commentators, recappers, and everyone else in the world. So he plays it. He slows down the pace of the game and makes these small improvements. First of all, he plays a3, eyeing to get some space on the queen side with b2 to b4. Gukesh plays instantly a5, sort of stopping all of that ideas on the queen side. So then Gukesh had to face another sort of prophylaxis, a very slow pace, slow game from Ding, because he plays h3, taking control over the g4 square and b4 square as well. So he limits pretty much all the enemy minor pieces, all the activity, and yeah, he's not rushing to play something like d4 and trade all the pieces. So here Gukesh plays bishop e6, but let's say if he would play bishop f5, which is probably the most natural move, you see a target, why not to attack it? Well, the point is that this pawn indeed is very vulnerable, but as soon as bishop leaves the c8 square, white gets a chance to counterattack on b7. So for instance, after queen b3, let's say if you just grab that pawn, I can take on b7, and after queen c4, oopsie, knight d2 leads to imminent disaster because black is losing some material. This means that after h3, bishop f5 is not the right strategy, and Gukesh calculates it and plays bishop e6, a very healthy move in general. So Ding spent another time in a think tank, and he pulls off this very cool move, king h2. So it's once again this incredible ability to play very slowly in a match situation where you have to play for a win, and this shows incredible stability and ability to fight, ability to handle the pressure. So king h2 was a great prophylaxis because white controls h3 pawn and prevents all sort of queen d7 ideas because h3 pawn is under protection. So here Gukesh sort of didn't know what to do because there's nothing to attack, to play for activity, and if he tries to be active with a move like knight d4, then white can capture on d4 and then play against this d4 pawn. So the point is that after bishop c5, white can play rook e5, a very interesting move, and suddenly knight d7 leads to a rook h5 move, and then rook attacks bishop, keeps an eye on the bishop, also keeps an eye on the h6 pawn, and the d4 pawn about to lose for black. So there you see that in many cases black has these issues with pieces coordination. So rook b8 was played, and maybe knight b5 would be more precise here, but Ding plays queen c2 at first, and after rook e8 he plays knight b5. So he slowly, now you can see that, the slow play actually improves his position slowly but surely, because he provokes this a5 and he has weakened the b5 square. Also, he's not yet ready to play b4, but by improving his minor pieces, he puts pressure on c7 pawn, he improves control over the d4 square, he frees up the d1 square to place there his rook, and then possibly strike in the center. So bishop f5 was played. Now he brings his rook, so he generally works on improving his position up to the maximum. Gukesh is literally stuck with some active ideas, and he sort of relocates his knight, eyeing for some knight c5 idea. And another very classy, very slow pace move, but it actually worked very well. World champion plays queen d2, sidestepping from this pin along the b1 h7 diagonal, and Gukesh literally lost his right path in this game, because if he would play he played bishop g6, but if he would stick with his idea knight c5, then something that he missed, and he admitted that in the post-game press conference, is that after d4, if you take on d4, then I assume white can simply play bishop f4, putting pressure on c7, or you can also maybe take on d4, and this position has to be better for white, because you're attacking on a5, you're attacking on f5, and most likely black is going to lose some material. So, but also worth mentioning that after d4, if you go knight d3, something that has to be considered probably as the main move, then white has a very good compensation, sacrificing an exchange with a power play in the center. So d5, you can even give up the full exchange, but white's activity is so much in the center that this knight is still hanging in the air. Most likely it has to go further, but white gets a pawn back, and then another pawn, and then finally you get both pawns for the exchange, and obviously white's position is way more harmonious, and it's easier to, you know, push pawns further and play for a win. So that's why Gukesh played bishop g6 here, and this was the moment when Ding sensed that his opponent is pretty vulnerable, and he continued with this d4 idea. So right here was the moment where Gukesh could have played e takes d4, but exactly in this moment white could have played bishop f4, and that was something that Gukesh missed, because pressure on c7 pawn is huge. Once again, I want to point out that this knight on b5 and inclusion of these small inclusion of a3, a5 favors white quite a lot. And let's imagine black defends passively, but then I can take with a knight on d4, opening up a route for both bishops, and you can see how dominant white's position is, even despite the fact that it's 3-on-3, but pieces activity is a huge factor here. So Gukesh understood that at this point he can't really take on d4, and it means that he's not anymore in a situation where he can make a draw comfortably and even equalize the game. So he plays e4, and Ding goes back with a knight, but it's not a big deal because knight has a route to enter the game. Via e2 it could go either way. So black tries to find some counterplay on the queen side, but here probably the main idea was to meet b3 with a4, sort of undermining this pawn chain and generating counterplay on the queen side, which wouldn't be bad, but white has several options to protect this pawn: queen c2, queen c3, queen c1, all of that nature. Every move has its own pluses and minuses. For instance, queen c2 would be a nice move, but it has a drawback that bishop is x-raying the pawn, and one day it could go e4, e3. Queen c1 at the same time is not keeping an eye on the a5 pawn, and a bit passive, but also works well. And Ding came up with the move queen c3, a very principled move, I would say, because he keeps an eye on the a5 pawn, and also keeps control over the central pawns. So probably f5 was a better try to outpost his bishop on f6 in the next move, but Gukesh plays bishop f6 immediately, and guess what? Queen c2 is played. And the difference is that now white has this d5, d6 breakthrough in the center, because bishop is not anymore guarding the d6 square. So, for instance, if black would play something like king h7, then d5 already is a huge move, and you can play either d6 or bishop takes d6 and then collect the pawn. So, white has quite a significant advantage here, close to winning advantage, an extra pawn and also huge positional advantage. But instead, Gukesh plays a4, and world champion brings his knight to the better square. So yeah, worth mentioning that in general, world champion played this game very patiently, and it felt during the game that he's the one who is in a driver's seat, and he doesn't care about the match situation, although obviously he cares a lot. But yeah, it was quite impressive performance of the world champion. So, and here happened the critical moment of the game, because Gukesh plays bishop g5, a very, very bad move, and it could actually work out if Ding would play h4. That's what he mentioned in a post-game conference, because he considered h4 as the main move in the beginning. However, in this case, black is right in time to trade on e3 and then improve position of his bishop. And you can say that, okay, rook d2 is possible, but then somehow black generates this play stopping attack against the e4 pawn, and after knight f4, suddenly black can attack the c4 from the other side and generate play with knight c4, knight b3, and so on. And apparently position is very complicated, double-edged, and even dynamically equal. But once after bishop g5, Ding Lijian spotted knight f4, it was clear that white is pretty much winning after this move, because knight f4 is such a dominant move that stops all the black's ideas, and the point is that if you sidestep with a bishop, something that young challenger overlooked is that white can play c5, a move that was missed. And the point is that after knight d5, white can take on d5 and then take on c7 with a fork, winning a material. So all in all, after knight f4, black had to take on f4, and after bishop takes f4, it's just strategically winning position. So basically, one problem black has, tactical problem, the c7 pawn, and they have to defend it passively. But what is worse than that, black can't really do anything about the c5, d5, c5 moves, and white is just rolling these pawns up to the board, and there's no play, there's no counterplay, there's nothing. So believe me or not, even though position is materially equal, balanced, but strategically it's a disaster, because the pair of bishops and all the white pieces are way better placed, way better working together. They're completely dominating black pieces, and also there is a tactical, dynamical nuance that you can play d5 followed by d6, and if black takes cd6, then after knight d6 there is a fork. And so this is tactical fineness behind this position. So this position is lost by all senses, like both structurally, positionally, and tactically as well. So yeah, it was a very desperate try to play knight b7, and something that shocked me completely was that Ding played d5 here. Don't get me wrong, d5 is a very logical move and a very dominant move, because you want to play d6 and crush your opponent in the center. But during the live show, all the commentators were speculating why Ding did not play knight a7, because it just traps rook, and after any move, let's say knight d7, you just collect the rook, and well, you're an exchange up, and you can make any moves, and you win by points pretty much. Yeah. So in a post-game interview, one of the journalists asked the world champion why you did not play knight a7, and he said that he missed knight a7 at all, which is insane, but yeah, sometimes it works this way. So yeah, white plays d5, which is also very strong and in a very dominant fashion. You play d6, once again you can't take because of knight d6 with a double attack. So c5 was played, and then Ding pretty much crushed his opponent, because knight c7, he installs his knight, and this construction, this formation is so strong, it's anti-fragile, you can't break it, so rook has to sidestep somewhere. Then he takes on e4, and after knight c6 there is a forced win for the world champion, but there is no need, because it's move 30 and you're down to something like 10 minutes, so you don't want to put everything on some calculation. So Ding makes a very great positional move, bishop g2, making sure that his king is very safe, and bishop pair works perfectly. He's just up a pawn, and e-file is in his control. So after rook cd8, he goes knight d5, another great move, spotting that this knight on b6 is unprotected. And this forces another trade. He takes with the pawn and collects another pawn, so he's in a full control, despite having this double pawn in the center, but he's just completely winning, completely. So after rook c8, he sidesteps with the queen, knight a6 played. He plays it very energetically with rook e7, queen b5. As soon as he chased the queen away from this blocking spot, then he continues with d7. And after rook c4, he could have finished this game in style. That would be pretty cool end of such a brilliant game if Ding would play queen takes c4, giving up a queen followed by rook e8, and d8 is unstoppable. So you sacrifice a queen, but then the new queen appears on the board. But Ding have chosen more practical approach, queen e3, with the idea that after rook c2 he plays bishop d6. So the point is that he wants to play rook e8, let's say some move like king h7, then rook e8 is played, and once again you're threatening to promote the queen, and after queen takes d7, you're a full rook up. So yeah, after bishop d6, f6 was played, a desperate try to take control over the e8 square, but then there's a final tactics, rook takes g7, after which challenger admitted his loss in this game, and score in the match once again is leveled 6 against 6 after 12 games. Insane comeback by the world champion. Perfect game. Probably we have seen the best version of Ding since 2019, I would say. It was a very remarkable win, possibly a historic win in in a way, but we will see it. So tomorrow is the rest day. Players will play game 13 the day after tomorrow. Ooh, stay tuned. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you guys very soon.